May I kindly invite Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Seri and all our VIPs to hold up their guidebooks together.
The most important thing that the government actually focused on is assure supply first. Because if there's no supply in the country, game over. Yeah? Your economy cannot function if there's no supply. And fundamentally, since we've seen the issues in the Middle East, have we had issues in the supply in the country? We have not. Part of the reason is we've been blessed. We've been blessed because we're a net energy exporter and we have our own capacity, but also institutions within this country are actually quite well positioned on a global basis. And they have supply sources that they can actually activate from a global basis to kind of cushion the blow to us along the way. So then securing supply was the greatest priority that we had to focus on. And you'll see that rolling supply basis is continuing forward, right? So every week we have our M10 meetings, we look at the position, and Petronas and all other oil companies actually secure our positions on a rolling basis forward, and we've been able to make sure that that has not been interrupted in the country. The second thing is actually to make sure that once a supply is secure, let's make sure where are the pressure points in the economy that's actually been put under risk, and what do we do about it? So the reality, this is a supply crunch. And because of supply crunch, price inflation will happen. But the reality is for us, we got lucky because we did our reforms 3 years ago. So let me give you a guesstimate today based on numbers that we're seeing today. If I did not do my reform on diesel and petrol, my bill for this year would be higher than 10 billion more. Yeah? Because we've done reforms that have adjusted market pricing for segments of the market that can absorb some of the movements, we've been able to reduce the fiscal burden to the country. But the second thing, we had some core principles. Our core principles was we need to make sure that vulnerable groups in society are looked after. So you've seen that we've not moved the RON 95 price. We're still able to buy 199 in the shops. But what we did with Budi was actually cut the ability of the 95 to be accessed by non-warga negara. And that's important because that's allowing us to manage leakages that could actually occur. The second thing is, as the situation was developing and we see much more price adjustments, and we saw that the quotas, maybe when we gave first time around, was a bit too generous, we reduced the quota from 300 to 200 temporarily. And that's also helped us to manage in, but it's also encouraging and bringing along the rakyat to play their part in managing the issues as we move along. So this is what we call mechanisms that are good, that are adjustable, but when it transmits into the economy, it's also cushioning people from the inflationary effect that it's going through. That's why, as Yang Muhammad Sri mentioned just now, inflation in the country is still fairly moderate. Yeah, the inflation number up to the end of March was 1.9%. Still within the ranges that we're talking about between 1.5 to 2.5, and a lot better than a lot of places. So cushioning the blow to society is also important. Then we also saw the impacts that were flowing through because where the prices were not subsidized, there may be some cost pressures in industry. There may be some groups, particularly the SMEs, that will be a bit more exposed. So what did the government respond? It did not respond using stimulus. Because in a supply crunch, putting stimulus is the wrong intervention. Stimulus leads to even higher inflation. And higher inflation immediately goes down and affects the majority of the people along the way. So what do? We provide lifelines. We focus at the SMEs, we focus at the micro groups, and we provided 5 billion out of Bank Negara, 5 billion from guarantee schemes, and another 5 billion coming in from microfinancing schemes to provide support to that group. The banks also played their part. The banks also welcomed mechanisms where if there were people who are under pressure, please come to the banks, talk, and we'll look at RNRs and moratoriums, whatever can be done, to also effectively provide lifelines for people to continue to manage. Hence, I think that's the art of balancing that we have done. This doesn't mean that the government itself doesn't have challenges. It does. Yeah? So today, what was 700 million a month on fuel subsidies in January and February, jumped up to 5 billion in March. At some point in April, it actually even hit 7.5 billion ringgit of subsidies. But now with prices coming down and moderating, we're probably sitting at about 3.5 to 4 billion ringgit of subsidies. These numbers, we can try to manage through. Some of the trying to manage through means better efficiency in our cost management. So therefore, a controversial push that we said is we want to see that the government also takes steps. Where you have costs that you can save, can you curtail your budgets? And all the ministries have stepped up. Up to date, all the ministries have committed 5 billion ringgit of savings coming in from this year's budget. Not by removing essential spends, by looking at things that don't have to be spent this year. Some trainings they can afford to put out, they put out. Some of the unfilled vacancies, they can delay a little bit, they delay a little bit. Better procurement mechanisms to reduce cost of purchasing has also helped us reduce the cost. Not going to conferences globally, if it can be done virtually, has also accepted it. Work from home mechanisms also have had reduced some of costs. So it is a much more whole of government approach to help the budget to be managed in a better form.